Hey guys, how we doing? Welcome to Home of the Hustle. I am your host, Frank Sell. Man, I'm super excited. I've said it several times. Our guest today is a man that I hold in very high regard, somebody that I really look up to, and I'm really honored to bring him to you guys and to our audience because he really resonates a message that's deep in my heart, and it's really get shit done and don't overthink it. Let me make sure. Okay, I think we got him coming on now. So, Tom, welcome to the show.
Well, Frank, the only reason we're friends is because of your coffee. I just want everybody to understand this.
Man, man, I got to take what I can get.
Yeah. Good. Good
There's
stuff.
a little more to the story. Tom is what you would call a man's man, just a badass Navy SEAL, 23-year career, Silver Star recipient. There's so many accolades, and he's a trainer and a leader of men. So that's just one of the many things that I really appreciate about Tom.
Well, thanks for that. It's been a while. I was a SEAL. I retired 6 years ago, and I actually think retirement is harder than combat. So I gave up on retirement and started doing things that I thought was were harder. So yeah.
Yeah, and I love that. And one of the things that we wanted to discuss today is your new book that you come out with. I have it here, and I'm about halfway through it, and just right away, I love your wife. Stacy is so badass. But one of the things that I really love is this about the slaying the dragon, because that's something that I used to preach. That when I leave the castle, which is for me a traditional marriage type setup, that I go out into the kingdom and I'm out there slaying dragons. And when I don't have to, my mind is out there on the field because I know at home that the home base is being taken care of. So I really honor that in your guys' marriage and what
Mhm.
you display.
I think the way that Stacy and I look at it is probably different, same but different. Meaning, for me, if I'm not doing something that consumes me, I consume it. I consume my family, which isn't good. So when I retired, I realized that I had to, or Stacy also realized that I had to get out and do things that were so ominous to me that it would consume me. Otherwise, I would sit home and destroy the family. So that's another way of her saying, get the heck out of the house and get busy.
Right. Well, and I completely understand that. I just made a post today. Sometimes like the need to be needed, creates problems that we didn't need to be had because we don't realize that, like for as men, we need to pursue a goal. We need obstacles. We need a target to go out and to feel achievement, I guess, most time. And that's been my personal experience, what I've seen in families and stuff.
Yep, that's true. That's a
Um,
fact.
so what your first book, Unbreakable, Navy SEAL's Way of Life. I know you wrote that for your children to lay down a blueprint for your legacy. So what were you hoping with your new book, Three Simple Things? To what kind of problems were you wanting to solve in the world? What kind of blueprint is this for?
Well, so when I retired, I got into a way of or a lifestyle that I didn't know that was out there. Basically, meaning the book got me into the public space, and I was a big, I guess, hater of the public space. But then I was in it, so like, what am I going to do?
Mhm.
And I mean, really, that's the older you get, the more you can speak fact. I don't know if you understand that. Because when I was young, I'm like, yeah, we're going to go into business. And so had no intent to be in the public space. The book launches 6 years ago. We get a bunch of keynote presentations. I get on social media. I'm on Hannity and some other, nonsensical things like that. And from that, several CEOs of Fortune 500 companies contacted me and asked me to design a curriculum to help them explore the chaos of their environment. And they wanted business help and leadership help, and that is the simple solution. The hard solution is try to involve yourself in all aspects of your life. And I look at those areas as five. I call them five pyramids. So in five areas of life, are you willing to commit wholesale to all five at the same time? As opposed to developing a multi-million dollar company and then getting a divorce or getting a heart attack and losing it at some point. So so I spent 6 years now training executives and organizations and consulting with them only if they're willing to tackle all five of those areas.
Right.
And then so recently, maybe 9 months ago, I had a group of SEALs over, and other than drinking and chewing tobacco, we talked about, what would happen if it was all going to end? What would we want to leave behind? And around the table, everybody had things that they wish they had done, and like no regrets, but family was a big one. Going all in business was another one, and then passing on to everybody that we know everything that we've learned. And they're like, "Well, what are you going to do, Tom?" I'm like, "Man, I don't want to pass on my secret sauce. I've made a living out of it." And one of them said, "Pass it on."
Mm-hmm.
And so 3 Simple Things is a deep dive into how to what I call lead during chaotic times for men or women by making things simple. And what I saw in business is things are too complex. They're way too complex. Get them back to simple and see how lethal you are as a leader, even an organization. Once things are simple, you can do them all the time. And so what I'd done in 6 years is, it's sad to say, hire me to come in and make your life simple again. And then ended up, we work at 18 different companies in the Fortune 500, spectrum, and 2x'd them by making things simple. And so the book is literally just a deep dive into that.
Yeah, it's like, as a human being, we have no problem making things simplicated, taking simple things and just making them complicated.
Yeah, they're terrible. Yeah.
And what I hear you saying is something that is, is like really dear to me is, subliminally at a base level, like so many of us, we don't know who's thinking we're thinking. We let these outside influences, the latest studies, whatever programs, bullshit that's out there, think is we have to have all this razzle dazzle when, like for me, just simply showing up. People appreciate just showing up so much.
Yeah, and it's really simple stuff. What I found, take for instance that one of the categories, or I call them pyramids, is your health or your physical life.
Mm-hmm.
We've made that so complex it becomes a multi-billion-dollar industry because nobody's doing simple things. So then you can sell anybody anything since they're not doing simple things. And and coffee is not simple; it's very complex.
Absolutely.
So what I found the executives were doing wasn't what the professionals were doing. Mm-hmm. Like a professional athlete only does simple things. Mm-hmm. In any sport, block and tackle and run and catch, very simple stuff.
Right.
But the people who'd never heard how to make it simple have now do things that don't make any difference, and then they add on complexity to it. And so one of the things in the book is, what are the 3 simple things in your health that will make a tremendous difference? And oddly, one is to work out for an hour a day. Mm-hmm. I mean, just simple. Move your body for an hour a day. Mm-hmm. And then stretch for 20 minutes a day. And drink 10 glasses of water every day. Simple stuff. When you do that, so I've taken 180 some clients through training, and most of them I call couch potatoes. Mm-hmm. Even though they worked out, they just did a 3 days a week, go to the gym, call that life, ready, set, go. They went from not being, 18, 19 people went from never running to running ultra marathons by doing those three simple things. I said, let's not make it catastrophic. If you run every day, you'll be able to run an ultra marathon in 4 months.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so and it's weird. So I made it simple, and life grows pretty much exponentially if you make life simple.
Yeah. It's like, and that's it's kind of what, like, for me and my vision with this podcast and this show, it's like, for me, I see myself and everybody that's on this channel that we're kind of like the next step of believability. So, like, a lot of people, I know I was there, and I want to talk about this later, but like we can't see ourselves making tens of millions of dollars. Maybe that's a dream, but you believe that a knucklehead like me can go out and buy $100 videotape and just keep showing up and just beat the damn street and do what we say we're going to do and do the simple things and create a nice business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you don't make it too complicated and you don't ever leverage risk, if you don't put $1 million into a $2 item,
mm-hmm.
and it's in the wealth space, there's three simple things that really make businesses lethal. Imagine do it in this way, and I don't know if I've told you this before. Try to get in front of one person a day that
mm-hmm.
you've never met,
mm-hmm.
either on purpose or just to work out, your own emotional convictions of not somebody. So imagine if you tried to make one connection a day that you didn't have. And that's one of the simple things. The second one is whoever you've already brought into your world of business, contact one of them every day,
mm-hmm.
saying, hey, thank you. It could be a text, doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And the third one is get to a safe space where you're not having to survive for maybe an hour a day, and think about what your life is going to be like in the next 3 years. So it's offense, defense, and strategic. Those three simple things, do them for 21 days.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter if they work out. Just work out all the bugs. When you begin to do that, when businesses begin to do that, they thrive. It doesn't matter what the external, it doesn't matter if you're in COVID, it doesn't matter if your business is about ready to get bankrupt. The reason why it's bankrupt is because you didn't do those three simple things.
Yeah, I love that.
You were doing other things that had no regard for the simple.
All the way. And that's, like, when you were saying that, what popped in my mind, because that's how I started business. I would just go around, I'd see people, I would make a list, and go say, hey, this is who I need to go see. And not everybody said, hey man, I love you, I want to hand you money, I want you to come do our business. And so, like, the phrase that came to me as you were saying that was like, you either learn or you earn. You go out and pay attention to what was said, what was the tempo, how was it set up. So you either learn something or you earn their business, one or the other.
Yep. And imagine there's no downside.
Mm-hmm.
Contact people that you actually want to learn something from, or mm-hmm. they inspire you. Even if it's just to contact them and say, hey, I like what you do, because the ripple effect is tremendous when you understand that. And I just found it to be interesting. Everybody wanted, make more money and hire more people. And you go into an organization and you see that everything is so complex, nobody understands it. When you made it simple, it actually takes a while, but when you make it simple, then you free up the business to grow, and you free up the people to be loyal in the business.
Mm-hmm. And so what are some more examples? You say the 5 pyramids, we've talked about, the health and, the outreach and so on. What are some other ways that people can simplify their life to just make things more efficient and
well, we talked about something like this last time, and I had, when I retired, I would never have imagined myself being into this conversation with executives. Mm-hmm. And I say it now because I've seen it so many times. Here's the deal. We're going to work on the key relationship that you have at home. Mm-hmm. Well, it doesn't matter to me. Okay, but we're going to do it anyway because all the money you're giving me, you're going to dump it into you're just dumping it into my hand until you figure out what's going on at home.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the work that I'd done with several executives, for the first year, was help them make a lot of money. But what was going on at home was like a drain into the bucket. No matter what we put in the bucket, there seemed to be no water at the end of the week. And and it's, again, three simple things. And it's so extraordinary when you wrap your head around the simple. Here's what I make everybody do because it makes a difference. So it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. It doesn't matter if it's just your kid that you're trying to be, in connection with or in relationship with. Three simple things. The first one is you have to listen to them for 10 minutes a day,
Mm-hmm.
meaning every day that ends in Y. And I still haven't found any days that don't end in Y. So you have to do it every day. So you listen to what they're committed to in their life, and you don't get a choice. If your wife wants to sit at home because she wants to, okay. If your husband wants to do X, Y, Z, okay. And so you listen to what they're really committed to.
Mm-hmm.
And then you share what you're really committed to. Like that day. If you can't share that day, don't try to share what you're going to do in a week. And so you be very front with it. You listen to that day's commitment. You share today's commitment. And then you spend 10 minutes being what I call intimate with them. And it's simple things that are missed that really have gravity if you don't figure them out. You have to go full bore on the intimacy, but touching your wife's butt, for instance, if you don't do it, she'll demand it at the level of hell.
Mm-hmm.
And if she doesn't get it, you know what happens. She'll either cut you off or find something else. And if you don't have intimacy in your life and you're out there in the field slaying dragons, there's a level of intimacy or emptiness that you can't get back. And so by doing that with executives, that's what made their businesses better, that their life was better at home.
Yeah, and there's two things there that I found that kind of go down that rabbit hole a little deeper. For me personally, and I've had a lot of conversations around this, is that the majority of people don't know how to be loved. They don't know like their love language. There's a book out there that talks about that, and they don't know like their own temperament or personality, like the disc profiles. And it's for my kids, for example, my son, he's a really reserved, laid back kid. So I'm not going to amp him up about going out and getting shit done. What I want to amp him up about is like, hey, as soon as we get this done, we can relax and chill. My daughter's the complete opposite. I mean, she wants to go knock walls down, and she's a hard worker and all this stuff. And so I have to promote and adjust accordingly. That's where I see a lot of people and a lot of couples. They just want to blanket it out there in how they want it and try to change to fit the people that they love and care about.
So obviously there are things that you do as a dad or a leader. I call them bi-direction. Hey, we're trying to build a home. But if you don't get the simple things done first, and if you don't play the 2 minutes of Xbox with your kid, and they don't know that today daddy's going to go out and be gone for 2 hours doing X, Y, or Z.
Mm-hmm.
If that simple stuff isn't shared, you can't by direction get anybody to execute on anything. Mm-hmm. Until I know you and you know me, and we've had some, how do men to men have intimacy, shake hands, hug, whatever they do. It has to be physical. Obviously, HR departments don't think that that's right, but you can see when it actually going on, the growth of the business goes crazy. When it's not, it becomes stale. So you got to have the simple things to execute on the more, climb-oriented events, either in the family or in a business.
Yeah. So are these like some of the things that you realized that made the team so tight, and the SEAL teams, because I'm sure there's not a lot of boundaries there. You're very intimate with men, and so like one of the things I noticed from the book was, and I've seen this change in you personally over the last couple of years, is like just some of the like the hardness, or maybe an awareness opening up of like the heart, and kind of starting to process and understand the dynamics of the SEAL team that maybe are just, again, like subliminally, you don't know why they work, you just know they work, like
Mhm.
the camaraderie, and now being able to open that up and explain that in a different, in a different way.
Yeah, I think with age comes wisdom or stupidity. It's hard to know which one's the right one. Uh, yeah, I think the further away you get from the X, so to speak, you have perspective. While you're there, you're just grinding.
Mm-hmm.
But what is true in, I call those master organizations, is they don't do anything that doesn't make a difference. Like
Mm-hmm.
everything is just but simple, that if you can't think about it at night or execute on it at night when you're cold, then let's not even deal with it.
Right.
So the basics are the only things SEALs deal with, but they do them all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to be athletic to stay there, and you do it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And if your relationships at home are bad, you're basically either get a divorce and figure it out, or see you later, because you're going to kill the rest of your team.
Mm-hmm.
And everything is just on the table all the time. Like there's nothing hidden.
Right.
And getting organizations to figure out that's a better way to live is hard, because everybody thinks they're cool and they don't. I have my problems. I don't want anybody to hear them. Meanwhile, across the table, same problem exists in seat 2, same problem exists in seat 3.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting seeing that dynamic. And then the older I get, I'm like, hey, you can spend a lot of money on me, and I appreciate it, but it's a lot easier just to get to the bottom line up front. Here's what we're going to do. And the longer you fight, the more money you lose as an organization. And call it getting back to simple.
Right. And it reminds me, I think I did a video the other day about this, but like um, The Strangest Secret, Earl Nightingale, he talks about coming home, talk about this guy that he comes home, and he wanted to just read his newspaper. He tells us his book back in the 1900s that had newspapers he was talking about. And so, this guy's boy kept wanting to play with him, and the man was getting annoyed. So he said, "Hey, let's play a game," thinking he would buy himself some time. So he took his newspaper, and he saw that on one side of it, there was a picture of the earth. And so he took and tore that up. It's like, you know what? This will take him forever to put back together. And so shortly, the kid comes back and say, "Hey, Pop, I got the thing put back together." And the dude's like, "How did you do that so fast?" And the kid said, "Well, there was a picture of a man on the other side, so I just put the man together. It was a lot easier." And so
That's a good analogy.
right, so his synopsis was, you put the man together and the whole world comes together.
Yep.
And so that's to me, what we're missing in business and just in life in general. It goes back to the who's thinking, are we thinking? One of my number one frankisms, I guess, is that we don't even understand how to do a marriage. We don't understand how to do love as a verb, starting with ourselves, how to feel complete and whole.
Yeah, boy, I tell you, when the basics aren't being hit, men show up worse than women.
Mm-hmm.
And is there a difference between man and woman? Yeah, hormones make the difference. Parts, external, internal, show up differently. But men, if they're not on point, it's catastrophic.
Mm-hmm.
And in an attempt to help that as a basic understanding, I have seen this for 30 years, and Three Simple Things, the book, was how to articulate it. And the book title was either going to be Three Simple Things or a 6-hour baseline. And what I mean by the 6-hour baseline, if there are 5 areas of life, one is your ability to deliver results physically. So your physical life, your ability to learn is the second one. Uh, Wealth is the third one. Relationships is fourth, and spiritual is fifth. So there's 3 things that are the same but unique in each of those 5 areas. if you stack them all together, it ends up a 6-hour day. Each one takes a little different, less time. So the spiritual, relational, and intellectual only take 30 minutes apiece.
Mm-hmm.
So 10 minutes per, so 30 minutes per, 3 simple things. And then 90 minutes for health every day. And then 3 hours of wealth acquisition every day, 6-hour baseline. When you do that, you don't need to do anything else. But if you don't have that, you need an 18-hour workday.
Mm-hmm.
Because when shit ain't right at work, at home, sometimes you don't go back home because it's not, on point. So then you spend at work disrupting and destroying, and nobody gets to work because things change all the time. So nobody acquires anything at work, and health gets bad. And then all the things that you've tried to acquire, you can't do anything with when you finally get them. Like nothing worse than a 300-pound millionaire.
Yeah. Right.
Like, wow, you did it. Cool. Now what are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
So when it gets out of, so that 6-hour baseline is what I then get executives to. And they're like, what am I going to do with all this time? Do something else.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally, I tell you, I've analyzed so many businesses. Nobody can work more than 3 hours a day on point.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody can. An 8-hour, you paying somebody for an 8-hour day, you're getting 3 hours of work from them, and then 5 hours of them being distracted and doing nonsensical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But when you actually get on point, you're like, wow, we're actually done with everything today. What do we do? And it's 9:00 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's start at 9, end at 12. But that changes the dynamic. Like world's not structured for success. It's just structured for, I don't know if it's being on a plateau where you can't get off of it, but everybody's stuck on this plateau and they can't get off of it. You got to break the structure.
Right. And I think that's what happened. I know it's what happened, for me in my literal come to Jesus moment, like March 9th, 2013. Finally started breaking into the awareness of what a real man is, true man, being a servant, being a leader, being a lover, all these different things, so that's been a huge process of my journey these years. And so I kind of like being self-employed small business owner now, almost 20 years, what you're saying resonates because I found that, yeah, I may be like, I try to moderate being at the workplace no more than 10 hours a day consistently. If try to do 8, but most time this time of year, we're seasonal, so I try to keep it at 10 hours because if I go past 10 in a week, I'm not worth a shit. I'm just there moping along. I take little micro breaks all the time just because for me it's a physical labor. So literally my hands, my feet, it hurts. And so I can totally see what you're saying is that, we need to kind of, when you're there, be there, focus and get shit.
And when you learn to focus, you realize you don't have to focus as long. Like the body's not designed to be on all the time. Like it'll shut down. Your heart actually turns off and on, which is an indicator maybe we should listen to the 5 billion year programmed heart. Off on is probably more successful than on. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so that ability to focus is tantamount to success. And nobody's teaching anybody that. Let's work harder. Well, no professional actually works very hard.
Right.
Like even, so take for instance, some phenomenons in athleticism, like ultra marathon running, which has enamored me for the past 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
The top athletes aren't on the whole time. Even though they're really fast, half of their body is shut down when it's not in use. So every foot strike, part of their body is being worked, and then the other one's relaxing. People who are tight can't run 100 miles.
Right.
People that learn to shut off systems and then turn them on demand can do extraordinary things. but you can't do it on a sprint. Like businesses live on perpetual sprints. Like every 90 days, a sprint, and then there's no downtime, and then another sprint, and then another sprint. Nothing can work that way, but everybody's caught into that system. Finding out when to turn things off so that the next day is actually better, as opposed to sprint until there's nothing left. And then people come back at half value, and then they sprint at half value. By the time they're 7 days into it, you're about at quarter value, unable to operate. And that's where most people I'd seen found themselves. Well, that's crazy, but they don't know how to get off that treadmill.
Yeah, it's a lot flashier to say you're grinding and hustling. And I know, I mean, how I got Get Shit Done coffee, but part of that for me, is Get Shit Done. Part of that is knowing how to back off and relax. That's a big problem for me. A lot of times is doing nothing is actually doing something. It's giving your vessel time to recuperate. It's giving your mind and your heart time to be open to new ideas and all kinds of different things.
No, I like the Get Shit Done also means when you're doing it, do it.
Yeah.
Let's not sit around let's not drink a beer and talk about what we're going to do. Let's go do it. And most people who are successful would say that, not really in the Democratic space, but they wouldn't use the cuss word. But most people who are successful always say, hey, let's not waste time. Let's get this shit done. And then either we'll stop and do something else tomorrow, but let's not sit around, slapping each other on the back.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're coming up here on about half an hour. So I don't want to take a lot of your time here on Father's Day. I really appreciate you coming on this one.
Yep.
One of the things.
Well, so the other one that you asked, so now what I do is I went away from training individuals, even though I love that style. Several of my clients have joined what I call the instructor training side of it. They wanted to learn how to train people using this process and method that is also in the book, 3 Simple Things. So we do seminars now, and we just had done our second seminar down in Lubbock, Texas. And man, it was probably one of the better experiences I've had as a man, is seeing the value of the work that I put 52 years into come out in a 2-day weekend. Mm-hmm. And we also, and I've invited you I've invited you to the 24-hour, and you've said no so many times that I get it. I know it's scary, but it's okay. So we also do 24-hour leadership events where people come to Greenville, and we put on the table this conversation for 24 hours is what stops you in your life. Mm-hmm. And so we've done 28 of those in the past 6 years. And this next weekend, we're doing what we call the Unbreakable 48, which is every 4 hours, we're going to do training every 4 hours virtually, because everybody's shut down and locked in that they can't get what they need out of life. Mm-hmm. My 3 partners, Tyler and Joe, we're going to just put it all out on the table. This is how you recode yourself in 48 hours. Relationships, spiritual, intellectual, physical, and wealth. And these guys are multi-billionaires. So, and when they talk wealth, I just shut the hell up and listen. And we've used this 48-hour process to actually vet people. Like they use it to hire people so that they can weed out the people who they want in their organization, vice the ones that aren't going to make it. And so their hiring process is very shortened by that. We're not going to, they do an interview, but then they're like, all right, you're going to come here and we're going to do something for 48 hours. Mm-hmm. And we want to see when you unravel what happens and see what your withholds are and see what's stopping you and train you during that 48 hours. And we've been doing it in private. We're like, you know what, why don't we just do this in public? Anybody that's committed can come. And so test 1 coming this weekend.
That's awesome. How do people get involved with that?
Unbreakable48.com. And you'll be able to sign up there, and all the rules and stuff and the timelines will happen through the explanation when you sign up. And you can do it at home, which is the greatest thing. I did it with my family 8 weeks ago when my daughter Autumn was here from college, and all the boys were sitting in the house about ready to shoot each other. I'm like, well, let's just spend 48 hours every 4 hours learning from each other. And it made my two sons different.
Okay.
The deal is getting kids up from sleep when there's nothing involved. I was like, man, we're not going to sleep through the summer till noon through the summer. We got to figure it out. By just doing this 48-hour, now they're getting up going, Dad, we got to go do something today.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I've always wanted. And them coming to me going, hey, we want to do something. What are we going to do? And a level of intimacy with my wife, just by doing all Stacy and I did was walk for an hour every 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
My kids ran and carried on and did other things. But she and I had more time in 2 days talking about what we're interested in that we'd done in 6 years.
That's awesome.
And so it's available. Anybody want to sign up on unbreakable48.com? We'd love to have you, and it's valid.
Yeah, it's just like the sign "Make America Grind Again." That's
Get to it.
I think
Why put it off? There's people that are on point that want to help. Let's do it.
Yeah, I think that's something we've lost as a people, is that, up until last 20, 30, 40 years, like, we were just too damn busy to bitch about little things.
Yep.
Working and getting shit done. So, man, I appreciate that. Where can people find you on social media? Where you want to send people?
Unbreakable Leadership is now the organization that we created. So that's on all platforms: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Or if you want to hit me up directly, Thom Shea on Facebook and Instagram, or Frogman Out on Instagram is another place. But just Google me. For some reason, since I'm an author, I show up everywhere.
That'll work.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your time today. And thanks everybody that's watched this or listened to it on the podcast. And share this out, subscribe, all the cool kid stuff. So I appreciate it. So Tom, if you want to hang on, I'll end this here and see y'all later.